Try it right now. Run your fingers along the bottom of your foot. Drag them across your ribs. Scratch lightly under your arm. Nothing. Maybe a faint sensation, but nowhere close to what happens when someone else does the exact same thing in the exact same spot with the exact same pressure. When someone else does it, you convulse. You laugh against your will. You lose control of your own body.
Same skin, same nerves, same touch. The only thing that changed is who did it. Your brain knows the difference between you and everyone else on Earth. And the mechanism it uses to make that distinction is so precise, so fast, and so fundamental to your experience of being alive that when it breaks, you stop recognizing your own thoughts as yours. Tickling is the least important thing this system does, but it is the easiest way to prove the system exists. In 1998, a neuroscientist named Sarah-Jayne Blakemore at University College London became obsessed with a question that had been sitting in plain sight since Charles Darwin first raised it in 1872. Darwin noticed that you cannot tickle yourself and suspected it had something to do with the element of surprise, but he never figured out why. For over a century, nobody did. Blakemore thought the answer was hiding inside a small, wrinkled structure at the back of your skull called the cerebellum. The cerebellum makes up only about 10% of your brain's volume, but it contains more than half of all the neurons in your entire brain, roughly 69 billion of them. It was long assumed to be a motor control center, the part of the brain that keeps you from falling over. But Blakemore suspected it was doing something far more sophisticated. Every time your brain sends a command to move, it simultaneously sends a copy of that command to the cerebellum. Neuroscientists call this copy the efference copy. The cerebellum uses it to build a prediction. If my hand is about to touch my ribs, this is what that touch should feel like. If the prediction matches what actually happens, the cerebellum dampens the sensation. It turns the volume down. The touch still registers, but it is stripped of its surprise, its intensity, its ability to make you react. This is why you do not flinch at the sound of your own footsteps. This is why you do not feel startled when you clap your hands. Your brain already knew it was coming. It predicted the sensation, matched it against reality, and quietly canceled it out before it could reach the parts of your brain that generate a response. When someone else touches you, there is no efference copy, no prediction. The sensation arrives unannounced, and your brain treats it as a potential threat. The tickle response kicks in. You jerk away, you laugh, your body reacts before your conscious mind even registers what happened. Think about what that means. Your brain is running a real-time prediction engine for every single movement you make, every finger flex, every step, every blink. And that engine is accurate enough to cancel sensations down to the millisecond. Blakemore wanted to know exactly how precise the prediction had to be, so she built a machine. The setup was simple. Participants pressed a button with one hand, and a robotic arm applied a soft touch to the palm of their other hand. In the first condition, the touch happened instantly, no delay between the button press and the sensation. The result was clear. Participants rated the touch as dull, barely ticklish. Their brains predicted it and canceled it, just like self-touch. Then she introduced a delay, a tiny gap between the moment the participant pressed the button and the moment the robotic arm made contact. At 100 milliseconds, people started to feel something. At 200 milliseconds, a fifth of a second, the sensation was almost as ticklish as being touched by a stranger. The prediction engine had lost its target. 200 milliseconds. That is the width of your brain's model of self. Anything inside that window feels like you. Anything outside it feels like someone else. Now consider what else this system does, every second of every day, without you ever noticing. You reach for a glass of water. Your hand wraps around it. You lift it. You do not crush it. You do not drop it. You do not overshoot and slam it into your face. The prediction engine adjusts the force and angle of your grip in real time, comparing what should be happening against what is happening hundreds of times per second. If the glass is heavier than expected, the engine detects the mismatch and increases grip force before the glass slips. If it is lighter, it reduces force before you launch it across the table. All of this happens below the level of conscious awareness. You have never thought about how much force to use when picking up a coffee mug, but your cerebellum has thought about it every single time. and the prediction engine does not stop running just because the body changes. After amputation, more than 80% of patients report vivid sensations in the limb that is no longer there. They feel their missing hand clench. They feel their absent toes curl. In some cases, they feel pain in fingers that were removed years ago. The forward model in the cerebellum keeps generating predictions for a limb that no longer sends feedback. The prediction goes out, no signal comes back, and the mismatch between what the brain expects and what the body reports produces a sensation that has no source. A ghost generated by a prediction engine that does not know how to stop. V.S. Ramachandran, a neuroscientist at the University of California, San Diego, spent years studying phantom limbs. In the 1990s, he developed a technique using a simple mirror placed upright on a table. The patient would place their intact hand on one side and look at its reflection, superimposed on the space where the amputated limb used to be. When they moved their real hand, the mirror created the illusion that the missing hand was moving too. For some patients, the phantom pain vanished. The prediction engine finally received the visual feedback it had been waiting for. The mismatch closed. The pain stopped. A mirror and a prediction. That is all it took.
But here is where this goes somewhere no one expects. In 2000, Blakemore published a study that connected the prediction engine to one of the most severe psychiatric conditions on Earth. She recruited 3 groups of participants: healthy controls, psychiatric patients without hallucinations, and patients with schizophrenia who experienced auditory hallucinations and passivity experiences, the feeling that outside forces were controlling their actions. She ran the same tickle test on all of them. Healthy controls and patients without hallucinations showed the normal pattern. Self-produced touch felt significantly less ticklish than external touch. Their prediction engines worked. They could tell the difference between self and other. The patients with hallucinations and passivity experiences could tickle themselves. Their self-produced touch felt just as intense, just as ticklish as touch from a stranger. The prediction engine was impaired. Their brains could not reliably distinguish between actions they had generated and sensations arriving from the outside world. Think about what that means in practice. Your brain produces thoughts constantly. It generates an internal voice, images, impulses, and normally, the same prediction system that cancels your own touch also tags those internal events as yours. You think a thought, and you know it came from you. You hear your inner voice, and you recognize it as your own. When that tagging system breaks down, the brain generates a thought but does not flag it as self-produced. The thought arrives without a source. It sounds like it came from outside. A voice you did not generate. A command you did not issue. An instruction from someone else, spoken inside your own head. Auditory hallucinations are not the brain creating sounds that do not exist. They are the brain creating sounds the way it always does, and failing to label them as its own. The forward model misfires. The efference copy does not reach the sensory cortex. And a thought that belongs to you is experienced as a voice that belongs to someone else.
The same mechanism, the same prediction loop, the same system that stops you from tickling yourself is the system that stops you from hearing your own thoughts as alien commands. When it works, you barely know it is there. When it breaks, you lose the ability to tell where you end and the world begins. A 2016 study at the University of Lyon confirmed this connection in healthy people. Researchers screened nearly 400 students for schizotypal traits, personality features that exist on a spectrum in the general population. People who scored high on measures of unusual perceptual experiences and suspiciousness were significantly better at tickling themselves than people who scored low. They agreed more often with statements like, "I hear a voice speaking my thoughts aloud." The prediction engine was not fully broken. It was just slightly less precise, and that slight imprecision was enough to blur the boundary between self and other. So the obvious conclusion, the one you have probably already formed, is that this is a clever neurological quirk, an interesting piece of brain trivia. Tickling is weird, the cerebellum is cool, and schizophrenia is sad. A fun science video, but that is not what this is actually about. The reason you cannot tickle yourself is not a quirk. It is the foundation of your entire conscious experience. The forward model in your cerebellum is the mechanism that gives you a sense of self, not the philosophical idea of self. The felt experience of being a single, continuous person whose actions belong to them. Every time you move your hand and it feels like your hand, that feeling is generated by a prediction that matched. Every time you think a thought and it feels like your thought, that feeling is the efference copy doing its job. Your sense of identity is not stored somewhere in your brain like a file. It is actively produced every millisecond by a prediction loop that compares what you intended to do with what you actually feel. When those two signals align, the result is the seamless, invisible feeling of being you. When they do not align, that feeling fractures. And what remains is a person who cannot tell the difference between their own thoughts and someone else's voice. The system that makes you you is the same system that will not let you tickle yourself. It is running right now. It is running when you pick up your phone, when you type a message, when you scratch your nose. It is the reason your thoughts feel like they belong to you instead of arriving from somewhere else. You have never noticed it because noticing it would mean it was broken. And every second it works, it does something no technology on Earth has been able to replicate. It draws a line between self and everything else. It does this in real time, without pausing, without error, for your entire life. No robot can do it. No algorithm can fake it. The most sophisticated AI systems ever built cannot tell the difference between their outputs and their inputs. They have no efference copy. They have no forward model. They have no self. You do, and you have never once thought about it. Not when you walk, not when you talk, not when you reach for a glass of water and your hand wraps around it with exactly the right amount of force. The thing that makes you you is the thing that will not let you tickle yourself. And you have never once thanked it.